Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Different view of the office. Still experimenting with where the camera goes. With the new monitor and keyboard setup, I can't just have it perched up on the corner of my monitor anymore. So I'm moving it around, building custom rigs for how it gets placed until I find something I really like, and well, we'll go with it from there. Don't normally see this wall in my office. I'm getting that wall cleaned off a bit at a time. That is where my wife has kept most of her crafting materials, well, a good part of her crafting materials. She has a lot of crafting materials. And at my request, she is clearing that space so that I can put some other shelving up there and maybe clear some of the rest of this office out. I don't need a clean office to work. Obviously, this is me, but it's nice to have. I thought today I would talk about politics and gaming. Not real world politics. Oh God, no. If you were to pin me down and demand to know what my political views were, I would have to say, get off of me before I beat the hell out of you, and you have a real problem. You should seek help. If one of my Patreons asks me to do a video on my personal politics at this point in time, I might, but short of that, anyway, there are three ways I'm going to talk about politics and gaming. One of them doesn't involve real world issues, while they all do in their own ways. Number one, real world politics at your gaming table. You might have the kind of group where the social dynamic permits for a friendly conversation about political issues. These days, that seems a little bit charged, but there's nothing wrong with friendly political discussion. If you're not sure if you've got the kind of group where you can have friendly political discourse and then carry on with your role-playing game as though everyone's relationships have remained the same, you probably don't. I would shy away from political discussions when you all get together and have that little social time before the dice start to get rolled. I have a lot of friends from a broad spectrum of political views. Hi, guys. And regardless of their political views, I still have a lot of friends. I have my own political views, which I'm not talking about in this video. I do not agree with the political views of a number of my friends. They are still my friends. We either have a casual and friendly discussion about these issues, or we don't talk about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't gotta talk about politics. People will get upset about something and show up to the gaming session with a issue they need to get off their chest, and if they're hurting, maybe it's a little group healing thing to hear them out and have a rational discussion. If rational discussion isn't an option, don't do it. If you're hurting about it, try and leave it at home, or put it on shelf until after you kill dragons and whatnot. As a game master, you have to provide an unending stream of problems and complications for the player characters in the games that you run. A good setting book or campaign published material will have a long list of things that can make the PC's lives difficult, which is good. PCs with easy lives are fictional characters in a story that people don't have to roll dice to tell. No one shows up to the table not to roll dice, unless you're playing a diceless system, which is another thing entirely. People show up to have these characters go through difficulties. And if there aren't enough monsters to kill or ninjas to jump out at them, if you don't have enough robots and zombies stored up for them to have constant unending combat, which gets boring after a while. You've got other things to throw. You've got investigations that they need to perform, or romantic entanglements that can happen. If it can happen in a good story or a bad story, it can happen in a role-playing game. You might need to go and rescue people for a change, or deal with a natural disaster. That's all great stuff. But one of the things that in a long-running Dungeons & Dragons campaign, or most fantasy campaigns, in a lot of different settings, one of the things that can really juice up your campaign is the introduction of political angles. If you are in a kingdom and someone wants to remove the king from power so they can take over, that's a political story right there. There are elements of politics. And yeah, that can be done entirely with long knives in the middle of the night and some well-placed stealth rolls, and maybe that handkerchief from the rival that you stole at the party the other night being left as false evidence. That's smooth. That's effective. But maybe that's a word dropped in the tavern. Maybe that's people's complaints being brought to light. Maybe you can legitimately remove that king from power, or at least make it seem as though there is a legitimate cause to remove the king from power. Maybe he's doing things to his subjects that his subjects disagree with. It's a kingdom. There are people who are getting taxed because that is how kingdoms generally operate. So there's people who are upset about being taxed. Universal law of human nature. So you're going to be able to find people dissatisfied with the king. You can always find people dissatisfied with the king. If you can turn that into a rebellion, then you have politically assassinated your opponent. There aren't many games that have a flat-out politics skill. GURPS does. And I've used that skill in-game this way, but most games have perception, sense motive or insight, communication, performance, persuasion, intimidation. These are not generally considered kingdom-ending powers. You don't use a persuasion roll to remove the army between you and the king. You don't take out the evil wizard with a roll on perception or insight. Or do you? Occasionally switching things up so that combat is less of an option or more difficult than the player characters currently want to deal with, and making more subtle, more political solutions can alter the flavor of a game for a while. Eventually you get to put a sword in someone's head. There's nothing wrong with that, but maybe you put that on hold so that when you put that sword through someone's head, rather than a price on your head, you get a friggin' medal. Maybe both, depending on how you did. This is not the kind of gameplay that everyone's going to be interested in. This is not the kind of gameplay that every game master will want to throw in or even have an interest in. I'm just saying it's an interesting option. If you're tired of Monster of the Week, if you have gotten a little sick of designing a crap ton of powerful custom monsters only to see your PCs mow through them in 2 turns and then ask where the real fight is, maybe attacking them politically as opposed to physically can be a more effective tool. Well, killed a bunch of bandits. One of those bandits might have been the son of a noble who was trying something out. Maybe they got bored as the son of a noble and wanted to go out and play a little medieval cosplay, dress up like a bandit, hold some people up for their cash. Not his fault that they decided to pick on the most dangerous group of player characters that the kingdom has ever seen, and now there's a problem because while there may be perfect legal precedents for killing someone who's your bandit, it might be politically difficult when that nobleman is in charge of investigations and giving people the rights and certifications to adventure within that land. 100 different ways to do it. End arounding the combat. You can do it for a while. You shouldn't do it for the whole thing. And, you know, it's super important to allow the player characters to realize how dangerous this can actually be. Sure, they're super powerful. They have spells and they have magic and they've got swords and they've got bows and all kinds of weapons, and they could probably have carried the ring to Mordor and back a couple of times in the time it took Frodo to do it. But when every hand and the armies and all the law enforcement and the courts are turned against you, that's more dangerous. That's more dangerous than hordes of orcs and the all-seeing eye trying to prevent you every time you turn invisible. Society is a great campaign villain. Just depends on your party. If your player characters are genuinely a little tired, your players are genuinely a little tired of Monster of the Week or the constant fighting, if they have started to see combat as their only solution and it's starting to get a little gray and tired, switch it up. Politics is a great enemy. It's a great tool. It's a great set of circumstances that can complicate the life of the PCs, is what you're trying to do. Inter-party politics. There's a fine line between having player characters who are opposing other player characters in the party and having players who are opposing other players in the party. One of those is good storytelling. The other one is going to wreck your gaming group, if not some friendships or both. You're setting up to run the game. You've announced what the setting is, and people have put in their contributions, and they're starting to come to you with their character concepts before the first dice rolling actually starts. And someone says, "Can I play the evil character? I want to be working for the bad guy. How do I go about that? I've got this idea. I'll act like I'm a member of the party, but I'm working for the other side. Is that okay?" Now, if someone is doing that because they genuinely want to use this as a tool to role-play intrigue, that's awesome. That's incredible. I've known people who've pulled that off. I've done it myself a couple of times. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it can be really powerful as a tool for personal role-playing, as a storytelling tool for the game master. It's a gift to the game master in many ways because while you've got all these complications going on, you also get to have an edge over the adventuring group. You know, how do they always know where we're at? Oh my gosh, they must have some kind of magic ball or something because every time we go someplace, there they are. If there's a reveal in the campaign, and there really should be because secrets like that are meant to eventually come out, that should be dramatic and devastating in this cathartic manner. It could lead to some fascinating combat and soul searching. But you were my friend. You were supposed to be the chosen one. There's a lot there. If that player is the kind of player that you can trust with handling that. That's a lot of responsibility. And yeah, it means that they run the chance of hurting some feelings, but if they're doing it, because what they want is to make things interesting, yeah, that's awesome. That's great. If that player is suggesting this because they want to make the game master's life harder, they want to screw the other player characters constantly, and want to sit back and revel in the attention of knowing that they're the one who made all this difficult, you have a problem. That is going to say no to requests to play an antagonistic player character. The first time this happens, you may not know. You got a new group, you got new people, they might be friends from ways back, but you haven't seen how they role play. Okay, not a problem. Hey, can I play the evil character? Sure. That'll be your first indication of how they do it. Because sometimes people enjoy that too much. Sometimes that person is doing that strictly because they like to kick the pot over. They like to make everything a little bit more difficult for everyone else. They want to be a dick about it. And, after the campaign is over, maybe you think about requests like that twice. If they're always asking to be in that position, or if they have a problem not being in that position, they're probably looking to be a dick about it, and you need to not encourage that. There's always that one guy, or that one gal. Oh gosh, I have known both. I have played with both. I have ended friendships with both over situations like this. You invest time and effort in your character. You invest time and effort in the game. You are investing. You've got 5 to 8 hours a week or every other week. You've got the time spent in between calculating your advancement and coming up with plans. You've got a character in your head. You're invested. And when someone goes out of their way to bankrupt your investment because they thought it would be fun, once, okay, you got me. Shall we play another game? Twice, do we have a problem? 3 times, goodbye. Because that person does not care about your investment. They're making an investment, and their investment involves bankrupting yours. I don't just want to have my fun. I want to take your fun away too. I want this to be a miserable experience for you so that I can feel good about how I am playing. I have words for that I probably can't say on YouTube anymore. Politics happen when you've got more than 2 people in a room. Politics happen when you've got 2 people in a room. If there are 2 people left on Earth, there'd be politics. It is a reality of human society and human communication. We'd have to break some pretty deep neurological circuitry and DNA to make politics just not happen. You get a group of 3, 4, 5, 6 people together who are in a group and trying to engage in an activity. As soon as there is a difference of opinion about how that should be going, then you have politics. As a game master, you're the arbiter of those. You're the person responsible for how that stuff flows and goes, for who has their opportunities and who doesn't, and what kind of political maneuvering can and cannot happen. I have a friend, I'm not going to name names because they may be observing the channel. One of the favorite things to do was they're in a game, they're not entirely happy how the game is going. Maybe they have an idea or something and very creative, very story driven, but things aren't going their way and it's someone's fault, often mine for one reason or another. So they have a private session. Hey, can I have a session with just my character? Just me and the GM. Just can we just have a private session? And in that session, things happen in the game. And other players show up to hear that thing your character was working on isn't going to work. You need to do something different. Or those people that were behind your character aren't behind your character anymore. You might want to think about how you're doing things. Or worse, you're going to need to make up a new character. Things changed since the last game, and that character is kind of being thrown out of stuff. That ended friendships. More than one. That ended my involvement in a number of games and ultimately ended the games. That ended friendships. That's a dick move. And the game masters involved, yeah, there were more than one, always said the same thing. Well, anyone can come to me and I'll give anyone that opportunity to place extra stuff for their character, which is a great thing to offer. One-on-one sessions can boost a character and give you a little more role-playing time and deep depth in the character. But what those game masters did not take into effect or take into account was that just because the player isn't there doesn't mean that their character suddenly stops existing in that world. And these characters are as intertwined with events and people and structure as the character currently being played. And if someone is going to try and affect changes like that, the only reason it's working is because you weren't there to do anything about it. Your character was. Your character should have gotten a notification. You should have gotten a phone call. Something should have happened. You know, there's things happening in the game, and they're trying to do this. Someone tells you about it. What do you do? No, you don't get that kind of opportunity when this person goes to that game master and says, I want time with my character. You come back, there have been global changes affected the game. Your character has been affected. You had absolutely nothing to do about it. You had your character's agency completely removed from them and made powerless, impotent. It's a terrible feeling. It is a bankrupting of your investment because someone, I don't want to use the word cheated because it's not against the rules. The game master permitted this to happen. Someone took advantage. I had some issues with that particular style of gameplay. You may have noticed because fuck those events. As a game master, you probably want to avoid politics like that. I want a one-on-one session. Awesome. Now I want to talk to these people about that player character. Oh, well, I got to call the player because that would affect him. Well, maybe not. Can I just, no, I got to call the player. I want to have a one-on-one session about things. Like, well, you know, the last time you did that, you tried to do some stuff and really upset a couple of people, so I don't think we can do that. Well, and I don't think I want to play. If that's the thing that's allowing you to play my game, there's the door. I do game material and play in between sessions with all of the players. I've got a number of games where the membership of the party kind of rotates out. People can make it, people can't make it. Life happens, and that's fine. I completely understand that. But if it's a personal thing, if it's a personal side quest, if it's something that they want to do to gain their character an advantage over other player characters, other people need to get involved. We can wait on that until the next session. Politics. it's all politics. If a political party could somehow see to it that no one from the other political party showed up for this particular vote, oh gosh, they would do that. And that would technically be subverting the system. And let's try and avoid doing things like that, because the suggestion of impropriety is strong enough to make that seem like a dick move. I think Will Wheaton said it best. When talking about politics or socialization, presence on social media, in this case, it applies perfectly to politics in game, as a character, as a player, as a game master. Will Wheaton's immortal quote, "Don't be a dick." You might know that player, that guy, that gal, that person who their fun is being a dick to people. They make someone else upset while they're cool as a cucumber and poke them and rib them, and then when people start to get mad, it's like, hey, it's all in fun, come on, just being a dick. Don't do that. That's if you're in a group where everyone laughs after that, that's one thing, that's fine. But if afterwards everyone's kind of looking at you like they want to put a knife in you, and you're smiling because you're enjoying having engendered that much anger and hatred, oh, don't do that. that is going to break the social contracts that make a role-playing game possible, and maybe get you beat up in a parking lot. I would never do that unless you held me down and demanded to know what my politics are. Got a little personal there, maybe a little more soul-searching than I meant for it to be, but I thought it was an important thing to talk about at this point in time. Probably more RPG stories next time, or something a little more entertaining. We'll find out. In the meantime, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have any questions or comments, stories about your own experiences with politics and gaming in any of these areas, leave me a comment below. Want to hear me talk about something or have any ideas for an episode, leave me a comment. You'll love leaving me a comment. I'll love getting a comment. If you really enjoyed the episode and you haven't done so already, please feel free to subscribe. If you do subscribe, go ahead and hit the little notification bell on the subscribe button so you get the notifications as soon as these videos come out. If you really dug the video, feel free to hit me up on my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is What Has Mattered to Me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.